Thank you very much, and thank you, Supervisor Hahn. Just wanted to just make sure that our record is absolutely clear. I appreciate your motion in April that required that the sheriff come back with a report. I believe it was a Mitchell motion that said the CEO would make the decision about whether it would be housed in Public Works or the Sheriff's Department. So I appreciate
Okay, you can have
you
credit. You
bringing
can
that
have credit for
forward.
that.
Say it again.
You can have credit for that.
Okay, thank you. I'll take it. And I really appreciate you, Sheriff, truly, and your team for responding so quickly to the challenges my constituents had been living within. You know, it was a surprise to me to hear that it wasn't the experience countywide, that there were communities that had a very different experience. And that made it all the more painful for me to know that there were communities who were not. So I appreciate you all leaning in, and I'm sure your personnel who you have fought for appreciate 22 new colleagues coming on board. So the speed with which you have taken action is to be acknowledged and commended. You know, we just spent several hours talking about an issue external when service demands don't meet delivery. And I talked about then that we have the same responsibility that we're expecting of outside service providers. We have the same responsibility internally to make sure that our delivery of services meets the demand and expectations of our county residents, particularly equally applied across the county. And so that has always been my motivation, to make sure that service is meeting the demand of the people who elect me to be their voice on this body. And so, again, we had early conversations. We put forward a motion which clearly triggered amazing response, and I appreciate you for stepping up and prioritizing this group of employees and this kind of service for constituents. Couple of questions I have, because I think it's really going to be important that we are looking at a true kind of apples to apples comparison to the report already provided by Public Works. So I have a couple questions from the slides that we had access to. In the report, you highlight a goal of 24/7 coverage with the addition of early morning shifts, and early morning shifts have already started Monday through Thursday. So my question is, do you intend to expand those through the weekend? Because that's really when we see the influx of parking violations. So the question is, will it include weekends? Because it wasn't clear to us in the report that it has or will.
Yes, ma'am, it will, and we can provide you with at least the schedules of how we've broken down, which shows full coverage, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's with relief. So, you know, when an employee is off, there will still be somebody there.
Excellent. The org chart in the report, it appears that, you know, historically it was sworn personnel that provided supervisorial responsibilities, and it appears in the org chart that that's no longer going to be the case. That the requested administrative positions for phase 1 would provide that kind of oversight. So I wanted to confirm that that's true, that no longer sworn personnel, because that has real direct impact on costs, and would have been the case in a Public Works model. So sworn personnel will no longer provide.
With direct supervision, it is professional staff supervision that will be overseeing this group. At the very high rank, you still have a captain up
Yeah,
there,
but
but it's only a portion of it. But the majority of the supervision, almost all of the supervision and management, will be done by professional staff.
which creates promotional opportunities for your staff that didn't exist before because it was sworn personnel that provided that supervision.
That's true. It does.
Great. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because I wasn't clear. With regard to the vehicles, I agree with my colleague. It's, you know, I represent this board on AQMD. You know, it's great about making that transition. So it's a pretty big difference in your proposed budget based on if parking enforcement will be outfitted with, my note said hybrid vehicles versus electric. So is it electric or is it hybrid?
We are looking at both options.
Okay.
Obviously, whatever we as policymakers, or all of you as policymakers, can determine affordability, that's a direction that will go.
I'm sorry, say the last part one more time.
Depends on how much we can afford.
Got it, whether you do hybrid or electric.
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
it would be awesome if we can do all electric, but you need electric charging stations and
know.
things of that nature.
Right.
So we'll do our best, because I'd like to get there myself.
Right, and we know that the infrastructure is a challenge, and that's something we confront. AQMD Metro, the infrastructure is an issue, so I appreciate that piece. And for me, the performance metrics, which we brought forth in our April 9th motion, are critical, so we never find ourselves in a position again where this slips as a priority in terms of your overall organization focus and structure. So how do you plan to track your success rate against those performance metrics that were outlined in the April 9th motion?
Yeah, so we took those matrix that we discussed last time, and we've actually gone through and seen that we can do those. So whether we give you quarterly reports, we'll probably do it monthly internally, but we could provide it to the board quarterly or however you guys see fit.
Or is there a way to even make them public? Because it's also not just the board, it's the constituents who we hear from who also have an expectation about equitable experience with your department.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
We can definitely look at doing that.
Okay, excellent. And so for my last question, Madam Chair, is just to go back to the CEO. Wondering, I know that the two reports are different as they were to be expected. Is there anything missing from your perspective? Any additional information you would be looking for from the Sheriff's Department or Public Works in order to help inform the ultimate recommendation that you're going to bring back?
Yeah, so Supervisor, we just got this report on yesterday. So my team did like a quick overview. We are lining the reports up so we can look at them. So we're comparing apples to apples. If there is additional information that we need that we think would be helpful in the analysis, we will certainly reach out to the sheriff team and also to the Public Works team. And we will also advise the board of that in our report back. These are the additional considerations that weren't in the written report that we obtained in our discussions with both departments.
I appreciate that. And I would just say, you know, again, as we brought forward the motion last fall, we had looked at, you know, municipalities across the county and state and saw the vast majority, if not all, were in non-law enforcement entities. And it was never, you know, our intention to compromise the safety of your personnel. It was about looking at models that worked for others, and B, improving the quality and consistency of our services across the county. And so I, again, want to say I appreciate all the changes you've made in relative short order. The performance metrics are very important. They passed, you know, they pass here via motion, so they're to be expected to be measured and delivered upon by whatever entity ultimately houses the responsibility. And again, just like we're having this expectation of external entities, we too have a responsibility to make sure that our internal services are meeting the needs based on the demand of our constituents. And so continuing, just as we hold others accountable, we have to hold ourselves accountable to that same expectation. But thank you so much for all the work that you were able to do in short order, and for you to acknowledge that hadn't been on your radar, it's on your radar now, and you're putting resources on the table as exhibited by filling 22 FTEs, or soon to be, is really important for your woman power and manpower that are represented by those in the room today. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.